Section 6 of the purchase contract is due diligence. It's actually the question or the section of the contract that gets asked about the most because it's the inspection period. Right when your contract is ratified by all parties, the inspection period begins, and this is where we reach out to all of our professionals to assist us in this, especially the property inspector. The sooner we can get them in, the sooner we can review the property. We like doing it early on because if something comes up with the inspection, we still can reach out to another professional, such as if there's something wrong with the HVAC unit, we can reach out to a HVAC specialist to review it and analyze and see if he can figure out what is wrong with the HVAC unit. Or else if there is something wrong with the septic or maybe a structural issue may come up. But it gives us plenty of time to ask those professionals who specialize in that area to review that property within the 10 days. This is why I'm always urgently pressing for an early inspection. So back to the contract, the inspection period is 10 days after contract acceptance. During the inspection period, a buyer's expense shall conduct all desired physical, environmental, and types of inspections and investigations to determine the value conditions of the premises, make inquiries and consult government agencies, lenders, insurance agents, architects, and other appropriate persons, entities concerning the suitability of the premises and surrounding areas, investigate applicable building, zoning, fire, and safety codes to determine potential hazards, violations, or defects in the premises, and verify any multiple listing service information. So just to address the MLS, if something is listed, we'll say a washer and dryer, says it conveys in the MLS, but we do not include it in the contract or vice versa, the purchase contract always supersedes the MLS. So this is why it's very important for us to have an extremely accurate contract. Also, I give you a buyer advisory. It's we can go over that in another section in videos, but it's something for you to review very closely. And it's going to go through and give you a quick checklist of things to review. We're going to look at possibly building permits, sex offenders, the crime in the areas, find out if the schools are suitable. But it's a really nice checklist to go through and evaluate the property. And it helps cover all aspects because you say, what am I looking for? What am I missing? And that is often where I go to myself and just run right down the whole multiple page document and find out what I may be missing or what may be a concern for this property. But this is for you to do because I don't know what's acceptable to you, and this is part of your due diligence period. And also, and here it is in the next section, because it gives you the websites to look for sex offenders in the facilities, and also the in the facility or the occurrence of a disease, natural death, or homicide, or other crime in the vicinity is a matter of material to the buyers. It must be investigated by buyers during the inspection period. Buyers shall keep the premises free and clear of all liens and identify and hold seller harmless from all liabilities, claims, demands, and costs, and shall repair all damages arising from the inspections. Buyer shall provide seller and broker upon receipt at no cost copies of all inspection reports concerning the premises obtained by buyer. Buyer is advised to consult with the Arizona Department of Real Estate Buyer Advisory to assist in the buyer's due diligence inspections and investigations. Like I said, that's the document, the buyer advisory. Take a look at it. Also, during this due diligence, you want to verify the square footage of the home. You can have an appraiser do it. You can also look in the tax records, but make sure the square footage is correct. And during that time, make sure there are permits for any additions. If those additions, if it's not concerned about permits, at least you're aware of it. But it's a key thing because we don't ever want to miss something where you buy it and you realize later that it's not permitted. So do your due diligence now. The next thing is wood destroying organism or insects. there's a saying here in Phoenix, you either have termites or you're going to have termites. They're very common here. People buy their termite warranties. When you see termites, you get them treated. It's basically on all properties. I've seen properties that are all blocked that actually had termites. So I was kind of blown away by that as well. The next thing is to find out if the property is in a flood zone and make sure you don't need flood insurance with it as well. This is why you also reach out to your insurance agent immediately just to make sure the property is insurable. That goes right here in section 6E as well. The next thing is for your property to see if it's on a septic system or else it's connected to a sewer or else it has an alternative system. If it does have septic, there's a few extra steps we have to go through, which is no big deal. And if it's a sewer system, if the home is older, you may want to have the pipes scoped. Sometimes homes built in 1950s, right around there, there's a lot of vegetation around. The pipes are old and often crack. So I always recommend, especially for older homes, to have the pipes scoped and reviewed by a plumber. And this way we can address if they need repair early on, so you're not buying a bad property. The other thing is just to make sure that there is a sewer connection. Even in Scottsdale, there's some older areas. You have to verify that it is on sewer because there are some homes within the city that actually are on septic. Oops, I jumped right there. And let's see, this is just to let you know that, you know what, I'm not an expert in all these areas. I guide you through the contract. And when you do need a professional, such as an HVAC guy or maybe a structural engineers, I can send you to those right people to get their response and their feedback from a professional. It relieves all the liability off of me and the brokerage. The next thing is the inspection period notice. We'll go through and I'm going to sum up this section fairly quickly. So what happens is when your contract is signed and ratified, all right, you are going to have 10 days to actually review and examine the property. During that time, the home inspector is going to give you a whole list of things that are wrong with the property. And it's up to you to verify what is important to you. You need to get that contract back, or to say it's the BINSR buyer inspection notice, seller's response, back to the seller within those 10 days. If you do not, it is deemed that you are accepting the property as is and you want to move forward. So this is why it's very important to get it done, because we don't want to jeopardize any earnest money. If for some reason we need additional time because we do need some experts to come and evaluate the property, we can ask for an extension. And also, I do not like waiting till the 9th day to submit the BINSR, because if there's any unforeseen reasons, such as I get sick or something happens, or maybe something happens to you, that we are not jeopardizing your earnest money in any way. So what will happen is you submit the earnest or the BINSR to the seller. Then the seller then has 5 days to respond. They can either make all the repairs, make no repairs, or say no, or else the third thing is they can negotiate. They can say, hey, we'll do either or. So they have 5 days to respond. Once they respond back to you as the buyer, you will have an additional 5 days to respond. So the buyer has 5 days to respond. And from there, whatever the seller says, you have the ability to accept it or reject it. And that way it cuts the ties of the contract. If you say, hey, the seller's not willing to make my repairs or make good faith effort to make the property acceptable to you, you can cut your ties and move on. If the seller says, hey, we're willing to work with you, congratulations, you're walked through one more barrier to purchasing your home. So that's great. But often the question is sometimes people don't want to make the repairs, so they ask, hey, instead of giving for them to make repairs, can they do money instead? Yes, they can, but that has to be created on another addendum. So in lieu of repairs, we can put seller is to credit buyer so much money towards possibly the closing costs. When we get to that point, we'll address it, but I wanted to clean up the inspection period. Yep, buyer has 10 days to do their work. The seller has 5 days to respond, and then the buyer has 5 days to respond to that. The reason why they have 5 days is because if you need repair quotes done on anything, so we know an exact dollar value in which we are negotiating over, it gives us the time to get contractors to give us those numbers. So this is all really, really important. This is all where we got to keep through. I kind of summed it up, but please read through this whole section here because it's all very important towards the purchase of your home. I kind of summed it up, but believe me, I'll go into more detail with you once we meet and go over or actually following through the purchase contract. So please read through this and get to know it. The next thing is the home warranty. I have mixed feelings about home warranties, but here is the chance you can ask for them. Asking for the seller to buy the home warranty is very common. The reason is the first year that a buyer is to own a home is also usually the most expensive because, as I said earlier, they are buying possibly new furniture, new decorations, and different things to make the home their own. And if something should happen to the home, we'll say that HVAC system breaks or fails, at least you can call the home warranty company, and for roughly $70, they can come out and fix the property or fix whatever went wrong. So I have mixed feelings. Some people love them, some people are against them. I can't really say which is the right. I can argue them both ways. The next thing is the walkthroughs. Right here, the walkthroughs, oops, I went too far, but prior to the close of escrow, we are going to do one final walkthrough. The reason we do this is just to verify that all repairs have been made. And this gives us our last chance to say, hey, stop, things aren't right. We want to make sure that which we will receive evidence of, such as receipts, that repairs have been made, and we just go there to verify that they have been done. One of the things I do like doing also is you can have the home inspector, whoever did the original home inspection, come back and verify that the repairs have been done correctly. So this way it's a third party. If it ever comes up to dispute, third party is the one that can say, hey, these repairs are not done correctly. And it makes it a lot easier to argue other than what a buyer says is correctly versus what a seller is, because sometimes there's a dispute. Well, for an example, is if there's a drywall repair, it may be good, it may be bad, but you need a meeting of the minds or sometimes a third party. So that's always also good to have when you do a final walkthrough. But that's the last chance that we have before signing docs that you have to, or after signed docs, depending on the situation, go through and halt the buying process. And that is it for section 6. If you have any other questions, please let me know immediately and I will address them. So section 6 is actually one of the most important things, and believe me, people always ask me tons of questions about it, and I want to make sure that you have a thorough understanding of it. That's it, and I will see you next for the next section. Thanks.